Lisa. One of the reasons I haven't done as many scrapbook pages lately is because I don't have the photos that I want to scrap, because I haven't edited and sent to print photos that I need. In some cases I have some of the photos, but there's some more to go with them that I didn't do at the time that I had them printed. In other cases there's just whole events that I haven't printed at all. So I thought it would be interesting to show you what I do to edit and get my photos ready to print. I've learned from participating on message boards that I'm not the only one who dreads this task. It's sometimes the least favorite thing that we do in scrapbooking is we take our pictures and then we have to get those pictures to paper so that we can turn them into our scrapbook pages. And very often they're not, the shot is not composed the way you want it to be. And so that's some of it. But the main thing for me is just getting the size print that I want, cropping out the stuff that I don't want, and either printing it in a 4x6, or very often it's printing them in a smaller size. Now, frequently what I do with mine is print them so that they come out like this. I have 4" by 3". I have 2 of those that will print together on a 4x6. And it's not that I'm cheap and that I don't want to, spend 20 cents or so for a print when I can get 2 on there for that price. The reason I do this is because I want to save space in my scrapbook. I want to do quite a few. I usually, and I've had many positive comments about this, most of my pages have multiple photos. And a lot of times, though, in order to get several photos on a page, they need to be a little smaller. And I don't need everything 4x6 or 6x4. I can do with a smaller size. So frequently I do them this way, so I take up that full amount of space and get a 4x3 size, and 2 of these will fit in the space of a 4x6 on the printout and also in the scrapbook page. So it's an easy substitute if you're using a sketch to do them this way, or if you have portrait orientation, that would be a 4x6 landscape. Sometimes the photos that I'm cropping don't lend themselves necessarily to that size. This one, well, it was close. It's a little bit narrow at the top, and then this one was really small. So I did something a little bit different when I printed this one. What I want to show you is how I select the photos and do that cropping and printing. I am using Photoshop Elements. I don't necessarily recommend this product. It's what I have. I bought my first version of this, maybe I don't know if it's been 10 years ago. It's been many years ago. And I had this idea that I would really like digital scrapbooking, because I've always done a lot of things with the computer, and I did a lot of computer training for many years, and I would just really take to digital scrapbooking. Well, I didn't. I really like the texture of working with lots of different elements. I like paper and scissors and glue, and so I didn't really take to digital scrapbooking that much. I also didn't take to Photoshop Elements that much, but I've upgraded it a time or two. I am not using the most current release. I'll tell you what the release is here in a moment when we bring up the computer. Even though the releases have changed, the basic process is not that different. Photoshop Elements is a very powerful application. You can do a ton of stuff with it. The reason I don't necessarily recommend it is it doesn't follow the conventions of anything else out there. I started doing training on computer applications back in the 80s, continued doing that as part of my full-time job, or was my full-time job, through the early 2000s, and then occasionally since then, and I've learned and taught a lot of applications, and PSE is completely different than everything. So it's not the easiest thing to learn to use, and I am by no means an expert. In fact, I'm still a novice when it comes to this application. But it's what I've got and what a lot of people have, so I thought I would share my process with you, and I hope that will help you. So let's go into the software, and I'll show you how I select the photos and then do some resizing to get them down to the smaller size, whether you print 2 on one sheet or not, but to get them into a little bit smaller size for printing. So this is an event from back in June, and I have quite a few photos. I'm hoping the the capture is picking this up, because I have a touch screen, so I'm using that to move things around. If you notice there's no mouse action, it's just because I'm using my finger to scroll. The first thing I would do is select my photos just by going to each photo and then scrolling through them and seeing which ones I think that I'm going to like. So when I go back to the thumbnails, I kind of like this one where he's walking through, one of these where he's walking through the water, and then this one I really like. Not that one, but this is really good. So like the second one of my mother and I would want some of these with the individual flowers, a few of these, and those are ones I'm going to make smaller. That's a good picture. I really like those dahlias. So just a few of those flowers. We'll do some of those smaller. And then this one's focused a little bit better. In my mother's defense, I dropped my camera at the beach, and it no longer, you can no longer press the little shutter down lightly to get a focus. So some of my pictures are not that great. And here I was using the self timer, and I think we finally got one good one out of these with the self timer. Now when I've decided on a photo, I can however you go about getting them into your editor. I'm going to open with Photoshop Elements. Now if it's a picture like this that it's all of us, and I know I want this 4:6, then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and crop it 4:6. So this is Photoshop Elements. We'll see what version this is on the screen, and mine has a quick edit at the top, guided or expert. I use either quick or expert most of the time. So I'm going to do quick, and that's what I do for a lot of stuff. I don't spend oodles of time messing with the colors and balance. I just let it do the automatic thing and print them and go on that way. I'm not fussy about that, and that's not what this video is all about. All right, so it's just mostly about cropping, getting stuff printed. So to crop in Photoshop Elements, the easy way is to press the letter C for crop, and then under Tool Options, then I can set the size, whether no restriction, or in this case, I know I want a 4:6. And I don't worry about the resolution at this point. I just choose the 4:6. Now it gives me some options down here of some different ones. I pretty much never do that. I just do my own drawing to get what I want. Like in this case, I'm more interested in us than in the rest of those flowers under there. And now you'll see this grid thing, and that's going to be important to us in a few moments. All right, so that's our picture. And it's a little pixelated. I'm kind of surprised because I thought I had a pretty good resolution on this. Let's go to Smart Fix and Auto. And then this one would be ready to save and to send it to print. Now what I do is I save them in a folder, an upload folder, and then I just send them off then I upload them and then print them. So I would do a File, Save As, and I want to save this as a JPEG. Sometimes I just save them in the same folder that they're already in. Sometimes I switch to a different folder name and go to an upload folder. I'm just going to save all these in the same folder they're in to make it a little bit simpler, but we're going to give them a name, and we're going to say Garden. This is Garden 1 photo, okay? And I don't want it to be that big. It doesn't need to be that big. Anything in the 700 to a meg is usually plenty. And okay, so this one's done. And so since I'm finished with it, I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now, typically I open several at one time. So let's go back a few pictures here and find ones like this one. Open with Photoshop Elements. That's going to be one I want a smaller one of, and let's take one of the flowers just to show you what we're going to do with the smaller ones. Let's not do the hydrangeas. Let's do something more interesting. I love these dahlias. Okay. All right, now I've got several photos here, and if I go to the photo bin down at the bottom, I can see those. The two that I know I want to be small, because the rest of these, like this one, one of my husband, that one, I'm probably going to print that as a 4x6. I don't know. I may not do it as a 4x6. We may do something different with that. But let's take this one, which we know we want it to be small, and the dahlias. And I want this to be 4 inches by 3 inches. So when I go to crop, C for crop, and go to Tools Options, I just change the width to 4 and the height to 3. Now I used to mess with the resolution and stuff. I don't worry about that anymore. Main thing here is that I want the proportion right. 4 by 3 is my proportion. That's all I really care about. All right, and I'm going to crop that. It's not going to be cropped down a lot because I really want to see the spray of water. In fact, I think I've cropped it too much. I'm going to do a Control Z to undo that. Control O in Photoshop Elements, Control and the 0 will resize the the picture to fit the screen. And I think I want it to be actually a little bit larger so you can see all that water. Okay. All right, so quick Smart Fix. Sometimes I don't agree with Smart Fix and I adjust things individually, but most of the time I'm happy with it. All right, let's go back to the photo bin and do the same thing for the dahlias. And we're going to crop them. And when we go to Tools Options, unfortunately it doesn't keep that. So it does different things. Sometimes it changes it to the photo ratio, and there's not a 3x4 option. Now this is one way I do it, but I'll show you a little bit quicker way here in a few moments. Now this must have been one I took with my camera because I'm getting a different resolution here for this one. So we're going to see what happens when we go to print this. That actually looks really good. All right, now to put 2 photos on one layout, I'm going to create a new file, which in Photoshop Elements is Control N. You can also do this from the File menu. All right, Control N, I need this. These are both landscape prints, which means I'm going to put the 2 of them on a portrait-oriented layout. So it's going to be 4 inches by 6 inches. 4 inches wide by 6 inches high and 3 inches. The resolution here is what matters. Click on OK. I want that to be at least 200, usually more, usually about 300. Now I have this design, this size, and I can go back to my photo bin and I can drag the dahlias up. They're going to be a certain size. We're not going to worry about that too much, what size they are. And my husband in the water up there. Okay. And the V, when you press the letter V in Photoshop Elements, it puts you back to the pointer where you can move things. So I'm just moving these down. And if they had been some kind of weird size, I could adjust the size manually at this point. But this is how I would save this particular file, and I would send this to print. And when I do a file save as on this, it's going to try to save it as a Photoshop file. It's not a Photoshop file. I want it to be a JPEG file. I don't want to save it as a Photoshop file because that means that I can't print it through my printing system this way. I have to save it as a JPEG first. So as a JPEG, this is going to be Garden 2. And maybe a little bit larger. All right. Now, at this point, I could delete these off and reuse this. Usually what I do is just close it. No, I don't need to save it because I've already saved it. And I go ahead and close the things that I have dealt with, so I don't accidentally print multiples of them. Now let me show you how to do this if you want some odd sizes and to get something a little bit different. So I've got 2 of these flower ones, this flowering tree and then this canna, that I just want a little bit of it, and I'm not going to worry about the perfect proportions. I could do this as a 3x4 and put 2 of them together, but I just want a really small photo to go, just almost like a thumbnail sketch to go on my page just to show this flower. So I'm going to crop it, and when I crop it, let's see, Tools Options, I want no restriction because I just want to do my own thing here with cropping it, whatever I want it to be. Okay. So that's cropped. And then I want to go to, oops, sorry, went in the wrong place. back to my photo bin and pick up the tree. And the same thing here, I'm just going to crop this. That's pretty. All right, now I'm going to do a Control N for a new file, and I'm just going to leave it with the 4x6 thing on here, 4x6 in size, and I'm going to drag and drop these up, and they're going to be big, right? Because I didn't worry about resolution or anything, they're going to be really big. So when I go back, when I choose one of them, I can resize it to whatever I want it to be. I can also rotate it. There's an option for rotating. I'm going to have to make this larger so I can see where to rotate. There's my rotating option down on the bottom. I can rotate it around, and that's that little circle that's at the bottom of the photo. Just drag it and pull it around where you want it to be. And I left this 4x6 because I knew I had one of these portrait orientation, and I had the other one, if I go back to the photo bin, this one is more of a landscape orientation. Now it comes in filling up the whole space. I can leave it that way, or I'm keeping in mind my scrapbook page, maybe I want it to be a little smaller when it goes on the page. So that's how I would do those flowers. One of these is going to be end up portrait when I put it on the page, and the other one's going to be landscape. It doesn't matter. I'm just getting a couple of them on this to print out, and I would save this the same way I did the others. Now I want to show you one more thing before, or two more things before we leave this. Let's go back to our photo bin, and let's say I really liked this picture of the two of us. Well, let's take the one with my mom and I. Let's say I really like this. I wanted to make this a focus of the layout, and I wanted it to be a 5x7. When I go to crop, I can go to Tools Options and choose 5x7 for the size. And it's automatically going to make it 7x5 because it can see the size that it needs to be. And again, it's giving me suggestions, and I ignore them, and I do my own drawing because I don't really care about getting our feet in here. But notice the little grid that you have. I'm trying to point at this with my finger, and I know you can't see my finger, but I can use that grid to center us, and I can also use the grid in other ways we'll see a little bit later on. Right, so now I have something that's a 5x7. I just have to remember that I have this cropped for 5x7 when I upload it and I go to print it. So the way I do that is when I do File Save As, for my name for this, it's going to be Garden 3 5x7. And then I will know that that one is to be printed 5x7, not 4x6. And the last thing that I want to share about these is under the photo bin, let's take something like this one. I don't have a particularly good one in this selection of photos, but we're going to try this one to see if we can get to make use of that grid. If I go to crop this and see for crop, go back to Tools Options, and I want to put this back on 4x6. Here's my grid for my 4x6, and you'll notice how it puts the little grid lines on there. What I want is my husband's face more over to the side of this printout, to this printed. So, because what you ideally want is your subject to be in the intersection of one of these lines. So I might want him to be more to where I see the top of the shirt with the water, and then I see the water over here behind it. And if I use that as my composition, then I really tell the story in one photo. Because I had the one where he's walking through it, I don't even need the one where he's walking through it. This photo with him to one side and the fountain over to the other side, it's obvious what's going on. It's obvious that he's walked through the fountain, and I don't need anything else but that. So that's my my composition, and that's just a very basic photo editing, photo composition lesson, and probably one of the few that I know about composition. And I would probably do a smart fix here. I didn't do that on the last one. Oh, that really helped it. Made it look really nice. So that is a really, really good picture of him. And so I would want to print that one out, and it's right now set at 4x6. I could do a 5x7 of that if I wanted to, and use it for something that would make a good page and a good story about his personality all by itself. So that's how I go about editing my photos, and then once I have several photos, then I just upload them to the service that I use for printing. I use Walmart, but because that's the only place in our entire town where you can print photos. We don't have any pharmacies that do it. That's it. It's Walmart. So I can have them printed there. I can go pick them up. I've tried one mail order company, didn't think the photos were very good at all. I can't remember now which one it was, but I probably wouldn't have said so. It was just my one experience. But I get really good photos from Walmart, I think. I've used their mail order. Works really well, too. I even had big poster size things done from them one time for a party, and they did a fantastic job. So I've been happy with them. But I've done Walgreens. I've had mixed results. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they have way too much of certain colors in there. So, you just have to experiment with who you want to do your printer to do your photos for you. But anyway, that's what I had to share with you today. And I hope you got something out of this. If you are a Photoshop Elements user, or especially if you're a novice user, this may have been helpful to you. But it's the fastest way I've found to edit my photos and to get the composition that I want and to get multiple ones on a printout. And sometimes I've done 3 or 4 on one of those 4x6s just because I wanted really small ones. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.